five chords together again. That is my sig tune.
Joy 99.7 FM.
You know, some time back we used to say extinguish all cigarettes. Are there still people smoking? I'll skip that and say put your seats in the upright position. Ziggy's in charge of the cabin. All exits secured. Some call it a program. I insist it's a promise. Some call us a frequency. I insist it's a family. Listen, every Sunday, 2:05, we come alive. If it impacts on your health and your well-being, I'll definitely bring into the studio all the top-notch professionals, practitioners. As we've assembled today. All right, the name is Nortey by nature. Welcome aboard. Let me do my praise with Kirkby. Since we're going to be talking about hypertension in your heart, let's see if you can stump.
Too radical with our message. Well, I got news for you. You ain't heard nothing yet. And if you don't know, now you know.
Joy 99.7 FM.
You better put them hands together and act like you know up in here. GP.
Lately I've been going through some things that's really got me down.
Put your hands together. Come on.
I need somebody to help me come and turn my life around.
I feel like having some church up in here. Come on, chat.
I can't explain it. I can't obtain it. Jesus, your love is it's so amazing. It gets me high up to the sky.
Hallelujah.
And when I think about your
Joy 99.7
Can't take
FM.
my joy, devil. Makes me clap.
makes me clap my hands, makes me wanna dance and stone.
Oh, you better put them hands together and have a Holy Ghost party with me.
My brother, can't you see? I've got the victory. Stone.
No weapon formed against me shall prosper. I'm more than a conqueror. Can I get a
Witness up in here.
woo?
Lately I've been going through some things that's really got me down.
Put your hands together. Put your hands together.
Joy 99.7 FM.
And turn my life around.
Hallelujah. Come on and say it with me, GP. I
I can't explain it.
can't obtain
I can't obtain it.
it. Jesus, your love.
Jesus, your love is so,
Hallelujah.
it's so amazing.
What does it do, y'all?
It takes me high
Where to the
up to the sky.
Oh, when I think
And
of it.
when I think about your goodness,
Come on and tell me what you want to do. Oh, yeah.
Joy 99.7 FM. Joy 99.7 FM.
Put your hands together. Come on. Put your hands together.
That must be good cardio.
I've got the victory.
Now, young people, if you don't mind, I feel like having a little church in here. Because the devil is alive, because he's a Messiah, but to never live.
Think about the goodness and fullness of God.
When I think about the goodness and the fullness of God, make me thankful, pity the hateful, I'm grateful. The Lord brought me through this far. I'm trying to be cute when I praise Him, raise Him high. I keep it live, beat bumping, keep Him jumping, make the Lord feel something.
Make
Ain't
the
no
Lord
shame in
feel
my game,
something,
God's
that's right.
poverty. Getting big with curse, ain't no stopping me. Now stomp.
Joy 99.7 FM.
GP, are you with me?
Whoa, that was cardio. As I said, World Hypertension Day was May 17th. At least my heart is pumping. Measure your blood pressure accurately, control it, and live longer. I've got the specialists in the studio. I can call them that, I insist. They say they are cardiologists or cardiology fellows in training. Dr. Benjamin Tobo. No, yeah, Benjamin, right? Because they are twins, they are twice. Each time I have to check before I say something. Yeah, he's with the 37 Military Hospital. Dr. Nana Ekua Asante, physician specialist with the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, also a cardiology fellow in training. Lady and gentlemen, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Dr. Bo.
Yes, Chief.
Apome.
Ah,
Charlie, you chopped your golden anniversary, eh?
yeah.
You and your brother, you did double.
Yeah.
About a month ago, right? No?
Yeah. A month ago.
Charlie, you've crossed 50.
I tell you.
Are you chasing me?
like joke.
Are you chasing me?
I can't even believe it.
Ah, okay. Danekria,
Yes,
how are you?
fine, thank you.
Good to have you. Is your heart pumping?
It's pumping.
It's
really
pumping.
Good. Really good.
All right, folks. So I brought them in because World Hypertension Day. And you know, this is a serious major issue across the world. They'll rattle the statistics, but I like running from the stats and getting to the business. Know your numbers and know the fact that most of those who have hypertension, will define it, are not even aware. Of those who are aware, there's a choche percentage that are on treatment. And those who are on treatment, there's another choche percentage that have achieved reasonable, significant target control. Pay attention. All right? Dr. Bo, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Wing Commander or is Wing Commander Doctor?
Wing Commander Doctor.
Right, but you stay on the ground most of the time.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, okay. Right, so let's define hypertension. Let's get a good look at the global statistics and then our local profile when it comes to hypertension.
Well, by definition, it's in its simplest term is an increase in blood pressure above a cutoff point.
Okay.
And that cutoff point, which I'll call the fence, is 140/90. You know, so that once you touch the fence,
Okay.
you are hypertensive.
All right. So you put a fence, right? A boundary, a threshold, a
Yes.
demarcation, right? Now, in the theme, measure your blood pressure accurately, control it, live longer. So
Yeah.
let's understand these measures. When you say 120, it could be lotto numbers, which I will stake, right? But let's break it down. What are we talking about? We do this every year, but let's make sure everybody understands. When you say 120 over this threshold fence, what are you talking about?
Well, we are looking at pressure, you know, that is generated by the heart.
Okay.
When the heart is pumping blood to supply the organs of the body,
Okay.
it does it by generating a pressure that will drive the blood around the heart.
Okay.
So the heart aims to supply blood to the organs, but
Okay.
the aim is not to destroy the organs in the process.
Okay.
So the pressure of delivery must be controlled. It must be at a certain tolerable level so that the target organ doesn't get damaged in its quest to receive blood from the heart.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's why the numbers are very important to us, because once the heart is doing that kind of delivery and is doing it at a higher than normal pressure, that organ starts to suffer damage.
Okay.
Yes.
So the whole system served by, I don't know, Gridco. Let me say Gridco, right? Yeah. And the heart is the general,
Exactly.
right? That is generating whatever is being distributed by the system.
Exactly.
Okay. Now you're saying that this distribution of blood is essential,
Essential.
critical,
Very.
right? So it shouldn't stop at any point.
Not at all.
Okay. So it goes around, comes back to the heart, goes around. That's a system. And you are telling us that the pressure needs to be at a certain level such that it actually arrives at destination, doesn't damage anything on its way,
Exactly.
right? Doesn't damage the vital organs it is serving, right? And then goes back to the heart. That's what we're saying.
Yeah.
Okay. So these two numbers you've mentioned, let me come to you, Nanekwa, and bring you into the discussion. So he's mentioned two figures, right? Why can't we just have one pressure? Polling station, we have one result. Why 2?
Because so there are two, like he mentioned, two figures.
Okay.
There's one when the pressure in the blood vessels, when your heart is contracted, is pumping blood, and
When
then
the
there
heart
is
slow down.
contracting.
When it contracts, yeah, no, but it's
So
an
when
English program.
it's-
When it
Is beating and
It's
pumping
beating
and pumping
and
blood
squeezing blood, pumping blood out.
out.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
So there's a certain pressure it will generate.
Okay.
And then when it relaxes to receive the blood as well,
Okay.
there's another pressure it will generate.
Great.
So the one on top is the one that is generated when the heart is actually squeezing to distribute the
When
blood.
we've opened the gates of Akusumbu or Weja,
Yes.
blood is coming out.
Yes.
We're looking at the pressure with which it comes out.
Yes.
Okay.
please. And then the pressure when it's actually relaxed to receive the blood. So we do not want, and these pressures are very critical. So we do not want it to exceed a certain number.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Right. So the upper number,
Yes.
Right.
Is the systolic.
systolic.
Yes.
Systolic.
Systolic.
Please,
That's what we call
if you
it.
call my program when I activate the phone lines, you should know these things, though. These days, Ziggy and I have come into a little money. We are fighting over it, but after fighting over it, we'll share some, right? So you should know. You should be able to demonstrate that you're a discerning listener of Ultimate Health. We're talking about hypertension, right? We're looking at you being able to measure your BP accurately. This is important, right? And control it, right? And live longer. I would love to believe that, well, God sorted all this software and the apps out. So I'm not in the business. It should not be my business to control it. We'll get into why you will need to control your blood pressure. All right? So there's a number, a pressure, a
Yes.
figure when it is pumping out. Right?
Yes.
Systolic.
Systolic.
And then when it opens, relaxes to
receive the blood, there's another number. That's the diastolic.
diastolic.
Yes.
That's the lower number.
That's the lower.
Okay, so what's the fence Dr. Togo mentioned?
So if the systolic is 140
Mm-hmm.
or above, then we say that you have hypertension.
All right.
Or if the diastolic is 90 or above, then we say that you have hypertension or
Okay.
both. Yes.
All right. Now, to either of you, we used to hear 120/80, 120/80. Right now, I'm hearing 140/90. Is it a new fence? What's happened to the 120/80? Most people are familiar with that, and let's explain because we are defining a condition,
Yes.
right? So, is it that the 120/80 is norm, and therefore what you're giving me now is when we are in trouble? Can you explain that to my listeners?
Yeah, it's like, let's describe the 120/80 as the nice golden zone.
Joy,
Nice
99.7
comfortable zone that
Okay.
you want to be in.
You want to stay there.
Exactly.
Okay.
You don't want to move too close to the fence. So it's that distance from the fence that you are most comfortable and your organs are receiving blood supply without worrying about pressure damage.
We're good to go.
Exactly.
120
80.
systolic, 80
Diastolic.
All right, good.
So it's the nice landing zone so that,
For men and women,
yes.
Obolo and Chingilinge,
Yes.
it's
So,
universal.
yeah, it's universal.
Understood.
Yeah, so that once you start moving away from that golden landing zone and you start moving closer and closer to the fence, your risk of damage by the fence starts to increase.
Okay. Right. And then you've got a threshold where it is serious trouble. You don't want to get there.
Exactly.
You may be approaching, but you would not be there. Okay. Listeners, if you just joined us, 18 minutes past the hour of 2 on Joy 99.7 FM. My name is Nortey by nature. I'm speaking to Dr. Asante and Dr. Tobo. They are cardiologists in waiting. Depending on whether their hearts are pumping or not, we will call them cardiologists. All right? But we're talking about hypertension, right? This elevation of your blood pressure, right? And they've made us or gotten us to understand that if that pressure is too high, the blood, which is essential, critical, non-negotiable, will damage the organs, will damage the system. Indeed, it even affects the heart as well, right? Okay, so they have certain markers, certain cutoffs that you and I should stay between. Okay, we just heard those ones. If you have any questions, concerns, WhatsApp is 055 11 11 997. Phone lines, I will activate shortly. I don't want to let the pressure build there small, right? So you can send WhatsApp, right? Okay, so we've understood that. Why would my system, right, as a child of God, amen, right? He has set everything, manufacturer settings, 120, 80. Okay, what would cause me to breach the fence, knowing that God is in charge, right? Why would there be anything like hypertension?
When we look at it, there are what we call risk factors.
Okay.
That will predispose you to developing it.
Okay.
And like you said, in as per God's own grand design, everything should be hale and hearty.
And he doesn't make mistakes.
Not at all.
Especially not on Sundays. Okay.
But then things happen, and you realize that certain risk factors show themselves, in our life. Some of them are things we can do something about.
Okay.
And others we cannot do anything about.
Okay. Modifiable and non-modifiable.
Yes.
Okay.
Should I?
So you want to take that one?
Oh yeah, feel free.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So,
This
like
one
he's
is heart to heart.
yes,
feel
so
free.
like he's already mentioned.
Right.
So modifiable. That means you can do something about it.
Okay.
And then we have non-modifiable. There's nothing that you can do about it.
Okay.
And so when we look at the non-modifiable ones, like age, as you increase in age, your risk for getting the hypertension will also increase.
What you talking
And there's nothing you can do about it. You cannot stop
the
growing.
older you get.
The older you get, there's no way you cannot. Your risk of getting it will go up. You cannot stop yourself from growing.
Okay.
And then if you have a family history of hypertension, maybe your mother or your father has hypertension, you cannot, there's nothing you can do about that one too.
Okay.
So when we say risk factors, like your chance of getting it as compared to somebody who doesn't have those factors.
Okay.
So your chance of getting it, if you have a family history of hypertension, is higher than somebody who does not have it.
Okay.
Also, we as blacks, our risk is higher as compared to the white.
Okay.
Then we have the modifiable ones.
Does God know about that? Why? I mean, is there an explanation? I'm black. Okay, I didn't choose it. I didn't, buy it. But
I think we are just stressed out. We're in the most stressed out part of the world.
all right.
And all sorts of stresses
And you're
are
here.
playing on us.
It's not poverty.
Maybe I know so.
Ziggy Wati. All right. So, but that it's disproportionately, right?
Yes.
Affects us.
Yes.
Okay.
And then we have the risk factors that you can do something about.
Okay.
Actually. So maybe if you are big, overweight, obese, so for those ones you can do something about. You can lose weight.
Okay.
If you smoke, you can stop it. If you are taking excessive alcohol, that's also one. And then if you are not exercising, you are physically inactive, that's also one.
Right.
Also, if you are not eating right, you are taking too much salt, you are not including fruits and vegetables in your diet. Those are some of the things that can
But
predispose you.
Salt, no. Right? Let's explain what salt does and how it relates to blood pressure. Because we love our salt.
Yes.
Okay, and our spices and all that. But okay, salt. What is this salt BP link? Can we just explain, since already we are black,
Yes.
and we've added salt to being black.
Yeah.
So what is the link?
So salt actually is sodium chloride.
Yeah.
And with the way the body is designed, if you take in a lot of salt or sodium, you also take in a lot of water. So the more water and sodium you take inside your body, the more your blood pressure will go up. So that's basically it. Okay. So if you are losing the sodium, you will lose it along with some water. Okay. And then it will let your blood pressure also come down. Basically, with the basics, yes. Okay. So if you are taking in a lot of salt, your body will also absorb a lot of water, and that will increase your blood pressure. Okay. So that's basically
Right. So we've understood some of the risk factors, some of them modifiable, some of them you can't do anything. It's just like your relatives. You inherit them, right? You can't change them, right? Your friends, maybe you can decide that there's some distance. So if you have any questions, concerns, it's 23 minutes past the hour of 2 on Joy 99.7 FM, Ultimate Health. WhatsApp is 055 11 11 997. Phone line 030 221 6541. I've got something on my WhatsApp here. Where are my mice? There they are. Okay, the person is still typing, so I'll come back to that in a bit. Okay, so we've understood that, but we haven't gotten to the point where we know who is hypertensive and who is not, right? We know how to measure it. Okay, we'll get to the issue of precision or accuracy. But so let's say, I was jamming, I did my Kirk Franklin, I went to King Promise, but I kept it instrumental, but I was on the beat. All right. My blood pressure may go up in response to that activity, not so.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we took a measure right now, I may exceed or breach the fence threshold you just talked about. Would that make me hypertensive, Doc?
No, preferably when the blood pressure is being checked, the person must be in their most relaxed state. So you're supposed to have rested at least some 5 minutes, sitting with your back well supported, your feet squarely on the ground.
I should be sitting.
Yes.
Okay.
And then not having what do we call it, a full bladder.
Oh.
Yes, not having drank some coffee or other stimulant, or not having had like an exercise just immediately prior to having the thing checked.
Doc, wait, let me breathe in. I want you to go over this because we're talking about accuracy in measurement of your blood pressure, which in itself is a critical indicator. And you are telling us there are key things we must observe in taking this measure, right?
Yes.
You said that we should be sitting. Okay, understood. Back well supported.
Exactly.
We should not have a full bladder. Hey.
Not even cross your legs.
I can't cross my legs when I check my BP.
No.
Okay, right. Okay, let it flow.
Yeah.
What
So it's important. You shouldn't even be in pain or under any form of stress, because you want to be in your most relaxed state. So that whatever BP that is checked is devoid of influence by any of these factors.
Okay.
So then we can say that this is your resting blood pressure.
Okay.
So should anything else show itself, because we can have somebody who has just had a resting blood pressure checked and he may just receive a very disturbing news, or he may just suddenly suffer some painful episode that will cause the blood pressure to rise. And so when that happens and BP spikes like that, we don't want to label the person as hypertensive when the person is in that kind of altered state. So it's important that the person is most rested, relaxed, and seated before the blood pressure is checked.
Okay, so
and to add to that, I think you shouldn't even have taken caffeine 30 minutes before it's checked, because that can also increase the blood pressure. You shouldn't have smoked before coming in, because it can also...
I mean, when you say shouldn't have taken caffeine...
So coffee.
Hang on. You brought yourself. Akwaba. For a lot of people, caffeine is coffee. But there's caffeine in cocoa products and so on and so forth. So can I, if I'm going to give you a knock, can I give you a knock?
Yeah.
I mean, because people need to understand, when you say caffeine, intake of caffeine, right? I haven't taken coffee. There are energy drinks that have caffeine and so on. So
all that. Anything that
contains
caffeine.
Right, I like that.
Just avoid it.
Now we are friends.
Yes.
Okay.
And then smoking. You shouldn't have smoked.
You shouldn't have smoked.
Yes.
Okay. And if you're checking your BP, you should be aware of this, and you should do everything to make sure that all these conditions precedent, right,
Yeah,
are attained. Non-negotiable.
Yeah.
You can't check yesterday's with a little caffeine, 2 days ago with it, then it's jumping all over the place, right?
Yes.
So this is important.
Yes, very important.
This is the accuracy we're talking about in the theme.
Yes.
Right. Make sure you are getting it right. Okay. Now, many people have these home BP apparatus and all that, right? They are checking whether it's a finger, an arm. Is there anything that we should know? Which arm? Some people say a specific arm. I mean, all these required states and positions, okay? I've taken consideration of all the caffeine, bladder, this, that, nicotine. All right. How do I take the measure, assuming I have the apparatus at home and it's not being taken from me? How should it be taken?
Well, for starters, the apparatus you are using, you want to ensure that it is an accurate device. It's properly calibrated.
Okay.
And that sometimes helps when we use standard ones that are not reliable. Especially the current ones that are around are mostly electronic.
Okay.
The manual ones tend to only have gravity as, especially the mercury one.
Okay.
Gravity as the only thing that will determine its accuracy. I mean, assuming that the components of the machine are all okay.
All right.
So that you can use that to calibrate your electronic machine to be sure that
You use the manual fig, right?
Yes.
Where you actually wrap the cuff around, you inflate it,
And then
use
you check
that to calibrate.
the electronic. You just want to be sure that the electronic machine you have
So when you say
is
that,
accurate.
you're using one to check if it correlates with the other one.
Yes,
If they're giving you about the same measure
exactly.
or the same measure.
Yes, the difference should not be too stark. It shouldn't exceed like 5 or 10 millimeters of mercury.
Okay.
When that happens, then you're concerned about the accuracy of your device.
Okay.
Aside from that,
Should you be doing that yourself? When you purchase these things, I mean, you can even, they'll bring it by Uber, Okada, whatever. You can now get them at the drop of a hat, right? It comes, put the batteries in. Sometimes it says pair it with your phone. Do is this calibration a required process? Or did they come well set up? Because there's all sorts of other gadgets on our phones and apps as well. But tell me a bit about that. Is it required?
it's not an absolute requirement because a lot of these devices are supposed to have gone through quality testing to make sure that they actually measure what they are supposed to measure.
Validly, yeah.
So that if you have something like that coming into the system, the assumption is that our standards authority and those regulatory bodies might have had them tested to ensure that they are quality products before they are on the open market.
Okay.
You know, when you are that type who is much more very, you know, intent on being a bit more accurate, then you go the extra mile of doing that, or you are the research
on accuracy in the theme. In fact, we've had this theme for a bit, right? Yeah, accuracy is important,
extremely,
so that we can base our decisions on accurate figures.
And then also the cuff that is put around the arm, the size of the cuff is also important in relation to your body type. If the cuff is too small in relation to your arm size, then it will give an erroneous value.
Okay.
You know, so that is also important. The more obese you are, the larger the cuff size that you need to obtain.
Right.
In order to have accurate readings.
Okay. Right. Great stuff. 32 minutes past your hour. 2 Ultimate Health on Joy 99.7 FM. My name is Nortey by nature. No pressure there, okay? Yeah? We're talking with Dr. Benjamin Tobo and Dr. Nanakia Asante. They are cardiologists. We're pumped up, but we really want you to be able to measure your blood pressure accurately and control it and live longer. I will activate the phone lines, but no pressure, please. Ziggy and I measure the pressure on the lines as well. 030-221-6541. Those are the healthy buttons to push. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, and X. Okay, so we're learning. We've got to a point where we understand that, okay, this is how it's measured. Let me come back into the studio. Hang on a sec. Can the condition of one who develops hypertension get back to normal without any medication or lifestyle, they mean, lifestyle changes or lifetime changes, this person has written here. So there's no intervention. They agree, they talk about it being elevated in the regards that we've just described, and they're asking, can it sort itself out?
If there was an infographic, that showed the various lifestyle modification plans and their contribution to the blood pressure drop, like losing weight and the amount it contributes to the drop, stopping heavy drinking, stopping smoking, exercising, avoiding high salt intake, eating a very vegetable rich diet, the so-called Mediterranean diet, and relieving all forms of stress as much as you can, and when they aggregated their contribution to the BP drop, it averaged about 21 millimeters drop. So for somebody who is just up to about 20 above the 120/80 golden zone, technically that means that if that person follows those lifestyle modification plans, well, based on the research findings, that person
can pull it back.
It can pull it back.
Right.
And sometimes, in fact, oftentimes, it forms the baseline of management of hypertension, the
lifestyle changes.
Yes.
All right.
So that if your BP is just slightly above and getting close to the fence, we will not rush to start you on medication. We will push for the lifestyle changes first. So that if you're not able to achieve that within 3 months, then we start throwing in the medication.
Folks, you remember we mentioned targeted levels, right? And I know many of you hate to be put on medication. You will do anything to fight it, to get off it, to dodge it, right? That's why this kind of question comes in, right? I'm sorting it out. I heard you the first time, okay? And so many of you like this type of question, and then when you hear this kind of answer, you don't want to present yourself for proper monitoring and assessment and management. So there's a flag there I want to put up. Mediterranean diet. Yes, they eat all the veggies. They do take a tad bit of wines as well, but they walk. They do all sorts of. So anytime I hear Mediterranean diet, I say, look, those people, they ride bikes. They walk, right? So those countries and those people you're comparing yourself to, thinking that, oh, I adopt their diet. Right? You're more sedentary. You take in more oils and so on and so forth. And then you are following them in the wines and other things, right? You may be surprised. It's not a curse, right? It is science. Okay. Dede says, what about the position of the hand? They mentioned the flat feet and back support, right? We're coming to the arm. You talked about the cuff and all that. How should your arm be whilst you sit upright to take the measurement?
So it shouldn't be hanging, just hanging.
Okay.
So usually, maybe if there's a table, they could let the hand rest on the table before it's checked.
Not the arm. If the chair has an armrest, how about
yes,
that?
you can just put it on that one.
Okay.
But it shouldn't be hanging.
Okay.
That's it. Yeah.
All right. Your arm should not be hanging. Which of the arms are we talking about here? Is there any difference at all? Is the value the same if I use right or left? I know my heart should be, let me just check. Should be somewhere to the left. All right. So I just checked. It's still there. Amen. But does it matter which arm I'm using?
Well, technically, it doesn't, unless there's a malformation in the blood vessels connected to your heart.
Okay.
And it happens in some people.
So when my heart pumps, it's pumping across the system.
Exactly.
It's not that someone is getting doomsore and this. So it doesn't matter which arm I'm using to take the measurement.
It doesn't really matter.
It doesn't.
Because the difference won't be too significant.
It shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be.
Right.
If there is, then maybe like he mentioned, there's a malformation.
Then your heart has a challenge.
Yes,
okay.
but it shouldn't really matter.
Okay. Kwame Ndansoman says, can high cholesterol lead to hypertension? Yeah.
Well, it's a chicken and egg kind of situation. High cholesterol, when it keeps piling up, makes the blood vessels, vulnerable to damage. And such damage can narrow the vessels. And if it happens to the vessel supplying the kidneys will perceive it as a drop in their blood supply.
Okay.
They want a fair share of the national cake. So what do? They stimulate a system that leads to retaining more water and more salt in order to drive more back to the heart so they can receive their fair share.
Right.
So then it triggers that kind of vicious cycle of increase in the blood pressure.
Okay.
So the high cholesterol would do that indirectly.
Okay.
By stimulating the kidneys to start.
Okay. Right. I left this out early on, but one substantive measure which is above or breaches the threshold we've just talked about, is that sufficient to classify me as hypertensive? You took one measure and I was up there. Do you need several measures? What are we talking about here?
We do. So we would not really diagnose you of having hypertension if you've just measured it once.
Okay.
At least 2 hospital visits. So if you've checked it more than 2 or more, we would say that you have hypertension. And sometimes when you come, we have something we call white coat hypertension. So in hospital, your BP may be high.
Okay.
So what we would usually recommend is that you do home
Especially
BP.
if the nurse is pretty. And the doctor.
Yeah, that's true. So we would recommend that you do home BP monitoring. So you can go home, we'll tell you to be checking your BP maybe morning and evening, and then you can record it and bring it. There's also what we call ambulatory BP monitoring. It's a device we put on you, and then it will record your BP over the 24 hours whilst you go about your daily
So this is something you're wearing?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
Yes. And it will record your BP over the period you are wearing it, usually 24, 48 hours. And then you bring it. And then we read. And based on that, we can say maybe you are hypertensive or not.
Okay. 030-221-6541. 030-221-6541. Those are the healthy buttons to push so that you give pressure to my doctors in the studio. Ask them the questions, make your confessions or your testimonies, share them. We're talking about hypertension, measuring your blood pressure accurately and controlling it. We haven't gotten to control yet. We'll get there. Please, can your doctors explain the relationship between thinking and hypertension? Thinking, or should we say hyperthinking? Thinking, we have to think on a regular basis.
Oh yeah.
Right. Is he talking about stress? Is he talking about?
I'm sure that's the angle the person is coming from. And the more you're thinking, if your thinking is not bringing a solution, then it's going to be part of the problem. And when stress hormones are released, they do a lot of things. The end result is what happens at the kidney level, which ultimately leads to retaining of salt and water.
Okay.
And then apart from that, because it is stimulating another system that will cause the blood vessels to narrow in their size. Anything that squeezes the blood vessels to narrow will increase the pressures within those vessels.
Okay.
So ultimately you end up having hypertension.
So you'd actually be triggering the stress response of the body. Okay? And that would also ultimately elevate your blood pressure. Okay, I have somebody on the line. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, who am I speaking to?
Seth calling from Accra.
Seth calling from Accra.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Seth.
Yes. I would like an explanation to the relationship between salt and water as far as the hypertension is concerned. And as the doctors were saying, the more salt you take, the more dehydration you can. So it's possible to drink more, and that can lead to hypertension. Does it mean normal, if you are taking normal water, normal water can also cause that hypertension?
Okay, right. I'll let them repeat that. So the relationship between salt intake and elevated blood pressure, right? We'll explain that again slowly. I have another caller on the line. Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Hi, I love your voice. Who am I speaking to?
Yeah, my name is Selassie. I'm calling from Jolu.
Selassie from Jolu. Shoot. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to know the relation between sugar and then hypertension.
Okay.
Sugar intake, yeah.
Your mouth, they sweet you, eh? All right. So salt, sugar, hypertension. Docs, the salt explanations doesn't seem to have gone down too well. And then now Selassie brings in sugar. Is there any link? Sugar intake and hypertension.
The intake is not direct.
Okay.
You taking a lot of sugar and sugar-based products. Your body will have to pack that sugar somewhere.
Right.
You know, so it will store the one needed for the day in the liver, and then the muscle too will take its fair share.
Okay.
The rest must go somewhere. So the body transforms it into fat, or the what do you call it? The ingredients for producing and storing fat in the body, and some of those end products are cholesterol and cholesterol byproducts.
Okay.
And then the cholesterol now leads to do damage, you know,
All
to
right.
the blood vessels when it becomes excessive.
All right. And we're not just talking sugar you can see, right? You take in sugar in many, many forms, and
Yes.
the breakdown and the body's response to sugar is not just white or your brown sugar and those things, right? There's sugar in a lot of the foods we take
Oh, yes.
in many forms. Yeah. Okay. So that can lead to a progressive process that can elevate your blood
Ultimately.
pressure. Okay. Can we quickly tidy up the salt one?
So, like you said, in your kidneys, if you have a lot of salt, your kidney will be the one to take more water.
Okay.
Likewise, if the salt, so if you're taking a lot of salt, it will take in a lot of water, and the more water you have in your, say, the blood vessels to make it, the more your blood pressure will go up.
Okay.
So it really doesn't matter whether you've drank a lot of water or not. Once you have a lot of salt in your system,
Okay.
even the little one you have in your body, the body will try to absorb that one,
Right.
and that will increase the blood
Okay.
pressure.
So
yeah.
our organs actually detect, right? The
Yeah.
surveillance your body has produced by God. Right, all these sensors are there. If salt goes a bit high, kidney does this one does this, that.
Yeah.
Right, and you don't want tripping up of those systems and those responses. Right, if you taking in habitually a lot of salt, now your kidney knows that, oh, okay, sir, all right, I will also elevate this to adjust for this and therefore that. That is what my guest is saying in the studio. Okay, so you are teaching your body different things. Somebody who doesn't take in that much salt, their body has the triggers that should be within a certain range. Okay, I hope you hear me loud and clear. It's like living next door to a public toilet. All right, come visit you and I say, how do you manage with this smell? You say, what smell? Right? You've normalized, right? It's become part of your new normal, right? Okay, so that's what your kidney is doing and other body parts are doing in response to the salt and the sugars, as my doctors have explained. Hello, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi, who am I speaking to?
Yao.
Yeah, where are you calling from?
Calling from Africa.
Okay, I didn't quite get it. Okay, go ahead.
Okay,
Yeah, go ahead quickly.
thank you for the program. I've been trying since 2018.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Hang on, I'm not sure where you are. Maybe your position, or hold your breath a bit. But we're not getting a good connection. Try again. Right, we're listening.
Is it better?
Sounds a bit better.
It's not a bit better.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I've been hypertensive since 2018. And there's something I just want to contribute. Ever since I was diagnosed, I've never changed my medication.
Ever since, no, hang on. You've given us a history of hypertension. I think I heard 2016. Your line is breaking badly. And ever since you've been diagnosed, you have never changed your medication.
Yes.
Okay.
Since 2013.
Since 2013. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. because listen to the doctor's advice, keep exercising, rest when I have to rest, eat the good food when I have to eat, and as much as possible, avoid the junk. And for that time up to now, I've not changed my medication, and I've never had any complications.
All right. So what is your blood pressure averagely? Is it within target?
Within target.
It is.
Within target. Sometimes around 70, 127. It's okay when I finish my exercise, all those ones. I do exercise almost every day.
Okay. So you wanted to share your testimony that you are compliant and all is okay.
Yes, and I just want to tell the people that I know, it's just like having to take your medication. You are good to go.
Okay. Right. He says take your medication. You are good to go. I'll let my doctors comment on something I observed. He said, I have not changed my medication. Right. You do not change your medication. Docs, your comment. Obviously, his doctor seems okay with the targets and the control. But I want this business of change my medication. A word on that.
Yeah, sometimes it happens when patients go, they meet one doctor and then they meet another one and their medications get changed, and the basis for the change is not too clear or explained to the patient, which can be pretty distressing because the ultimate aim is to hit the target blood pressure.
All right.
So once the patient is at target, you don't change a winning horse unless in changing the medication, let's say the patient is on 3, 4 or 5 different medications and there's another one which is like one tablet containing 3 different drugs.
Yeah, there are many of those. Yeah.
So you want to reduce the pill burden.
Okay.
And then so all this must be done by informing the patient.
You must be informed about the changes.
Exactly.
About when to take your medication, right? How to take your medication.
Yes.
Right. Now we're looking for control. Where control is achieved, we want it to be sustained.
Exactly.
Okay. Right. And for this gentleman who called, I would assume that, well, everything is okay, but he does also mention and emphasize that he's exercising, he's doing all the lifestyle changes that he's been asked to, incorporate into his management.
Yes.
Yeah, that's important.
Very important. In fact, if you do that, sometimes even reduces the amount of medication that you're supposed to take.
Okay.
So it's very important that we adopt healthy lifestyle behaviors.
Okay. All right. So why don't the nurses ask you all those questions before taking your BP? Because you can't get to the hospital sometimes. You can get to the hospital, or because you get to the hospital sometimes a bit breathless or with a higher BP than normal because you are climbing stairs to the facility or walking up and down trying to sort out your patient records. They don't advise you to take a few minutes rest first. They don't ask about your bladder. If you need to pee or something, then they don't ask about your recent intake of caffeine or anything. They just call you up, strap the thing around your arm, not even checking if you are in the proper sitting posture, and that is that. Shouldn't hospital staff do all these checks, or we, the patients, are supposed to just know? Some of what you mentioned I'd never heard of before. Example, the bladder. Wow, it says read more. Okay. And caffeine, etc. All right. So this is Yana in Kaneshi, right? Saying that, look, I go there, they just check my BP. They note it, and I wait to see the doctor. Docs, chew on to that. There's pressure on my phone line. Hello?
Hello.
Hi, dear. Your name, please?
Amy from La Paz.
Amy from La Paz.
Yeah.
Okay, please share with us, Amy.
Yeah, I'd like to know if a diastolic of 80, even when the systolic is around 116, 120, has concern.
Diastolic of 80?
Yeah, that's
systolic is below 120. 116, 120.
No. Yeah, the systolic is, yes, 116, 120, but diastolic is 79, 80, that sort of. Do I need to go on medication
Okay.
age 60.
All right. She's 60. She says diastolic 116, 120. The diastolic is 79, 80. Does she need to go on medication? She's wondering, is she okay?
So we have diastolic blood pressure and then systolic,
Yeah.
like I already mentioned. So if your diastolic is hovering around 80,
79, 80.
79, 80, you don't have to be on medication. However, you can adopt the lifestyle changes, and when you do it, most likely it will come down. But if it was above 90, then we'll say that we'll give you some time.
79, 80 diastolic, it's normal.
It's no, it's normal. Yes.
116, 120 systolic.
That's perfect.
It's okay.
Yes, that's
right.
okay.
But you're
Yes.
still encouraging her to check lifestyle,
Yes, please.
even though she's in the normal range.
Yes,
Okay.
because anything between 81 to 89, we say that your blood pressure is, we are not saying that you have hypertension, but your blood pressure is elevated. That means something like a pre-hypertension.
Okay.
And we do not want you to get to the hypertensive stage.
Okay.
So we advise that you check your lifestyle, you adopt healthy lifestyle habits. Yeah. To try and control it. But if it was above 90, and we've given you some time to change your lifestyle, it's not coming down,
Okay.
then we may put you on medication.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. So you're on medication if you are above these levels.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. And you're above these levels, then you are working with your doctor to achieve some control. Right. All right. How do you set these targets for control? I've come in, okay, you've diagnosed, you've classified me as hypertensive, right? You may or may not be using drugs alongside lifestyle changes, but how do you set the targets so that we can work towards these?
Well, assuming you came in with a blood pressure at the fence, 140/90, and our target is 120/80,
Right.
we want to give a time.
Okay.
From the guidelines, maximum 3 months, you should have reached your target. So within those 3 months, you know, we want to push you to the target.
Okay.
The earlier we do that, the lower the risk of the hypertension mediated organ damage.
Okay.
You know, so once we set a target, we start you on a medication. That is, if you need to be on medication, we start you on the lowest tolerable dose, and then every 2 to 4 or even 6 weeks, we review your medication whilst you are checking your BP regularly. You bring what we call you do a BP profile, and you bring it along.
Okay.
A BP profile basically is like checking your BP at a certain time of day regularly.
So the records.
Yes.
Okay.
So that we want to see the trend of your BP drop. And then that informs us that we are getting closer and closer to target, or we are not achieving anything.
All right.
So if we're not achieving, then at your next review, we have to double your medication,
Okay.
or increase the dose of the
Right.
medication until we hit our target. So until we hit our targets, we don't stop increasing the dose of the medication or adding another one
Okay.
as necessary.
Right. We're running out of time, but let me ask you this. So I come to you, you determine me to be hypertensive, right? But your investigations also show evidence of organ damage or, you know, deterioration in my health. Okay, maybe kidney is doing this, and that. How is this explained to me so that we can partner in the management? Because I may know somebody who's on antihypertensives. So I think I'm the same as that person, right? Thankfully, I'm hearing the same medications. So it looks like we are one, we are the same. But you have seen my investigations, my labs. You are concerned about my kidney or this or that. How do you partner with the patient to look at these?
Okay, so when you come and you see, I've seen your investigations. I know that you have end organ damage or dysfunction. I'd explain to you what is happening,
Right.
and then because you have an end organ damage,
Right.
I would expect that your treatment is rather stricter compared to somebody who doesn't. So we are stricter, we are quick to get to target. So that's it. And then I'll have to explain to you. And then with the medications, sometimes we even have to try and change some of the medication to suit you. So it's an individual thing, not for everybody. We don't give the same antihypertensives to everybody.
Right.
Your friend may be on one antihypertensive and may be working, but you may be on a different one. So it's an individual thing.
All right. I have somebody on the line. Let me just quickly take the person. Hello.
Oh, Nortey,
Yes, dear.
I've been kept on for long.
Yes, we had to get we had to get the explanations. Please go ahead.
Back, cardiologists, I'd like to know their view on starting at what antiplatelet they call it, or something like aspirin. We hear that at a certain age, everybody must go on aspirin. So if you get to age 50, is it advisable for age 40, or you need certain symptoms before you can be put on?
Great question. So Amy called earlier, right? She mentioned she was 60, right? Her levels were okay, but she's asking about these the use of aspirin or soluble aspirins, the thinners, the statins, and all that. And she hears a lot about it, and she's asking, if you start them, are you supposed to take them forever? What's the deal with those ones?
So there are clear indications for starting those ones. It depends on what you, and like I said, it's an individual. It's individual based. So you should. There are clear indications. So maybe if someone has had a heart attack, maybe I'll put the person on aspirin. But if you're hypertensive, you don't have anything, you're at target, you don't need aspirin.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's not as if everybody should be taking soluble aspirin.
No.
Okay.
No.
Right. So based on your condition, right?
Yes.
Your doctor will put you on those thinners if you need them.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Right. We're at time, closing point. But let me just ask that those who default from medication because some of the medication may cause issues they are not happy with. There are men who say this is going to affect my erection, right? Or my potency. I'm not talking fertility, all right? Potency, erection, and all that. And therefore, I'd rather skip a couple of doses so that I can do stuff. Just a quick word on this.
Well, hypertension itself can damage the erectile machinery.
Okay.
You know, the same kind of damage that's happening in other target organs like the heart, the brain, the kidneys. The same system that controls erection can be damaged by the hypertension itself.
Right.
So, not taking the medication is not a sure protection against having erectile dysfunction.
Okay.
You know.
So the problem is probably caused by the hypertension itself.
Yeah, itself it
Right.
can cause it. Yes.
Right. So all your erectile tissue has challenges already.
Exactly.
You are on medications to make sure that things are okay, and then you seem to think you've seen a drop in your potency, and then you stop taking it. You're saying that's not a good thing.
It's not a good thing. And there's stuff that can be given to help, those who have problems in that arena so that they can take their medicine and still be able to have a fulfilling sexual life.
Okie dokie. All right. So measure accurately. I think we've got a sense of how to do that. Okay. Somebody said strongly that at the health facilities, rather, they are not checking all the requirements for accurate measurement that you have mentioned. Okay. We've understood how the diagnosis is made. Right, and then on management, we're looking at targets related to your status and your condition. Right. Any last key quick word that you want to leave us with?
So what we want to say is that hypertension is a common risk factor for heart and heart related problems, like we've already mentioned: stroke, heart attack, heart failures, and stuff. And so it's important that we know our numbers. It's important that you regularly check your BP. And when you know your numbers, you work towards it. Don't even wait till you get hypertension before you start adopting healthy lifestyles. Start now and make sure that you're checking your BPs regularly.
Okay.
Well.
Yes.
Yeah,
Dr. Tobo.
yes, because of that, we have adopted in the month of May for creating awareness on hypertension. So that every 17th of May, we celebrate it as part of the World Hypertension Day with various activities. Went on health walks. We are here talking on the air, and then we do screening exercises, and then there's a public lecture that's coming up on the 31st.
30th of this month.
Okay.
Yes.
Friday at the British Council.
British Council Hall.
Yes.
Okay.
So
Great stuff. Okay. Right. The gentleman who shared his good numbers and good progress says he's also on minimal dose. I think he wrote something 5 mg. Right. So he's taking just a little, but he's doing his stuff as well. Many thanks, Dr. Benjamin Tobo and Dr. Nana Ekua Asante from the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. I hope you've heard, and I hope you can measure properly. Your measures will dictate what is done for you individually.
Yeah.
Right? Don't compare your case to somebody's case, and try hard to be compliant with your medication. Many thanks again. Many thanks, Ziggy Badio, my producer, who comes up shortly with some good music for your Sunday afternoon. My name is Nortey by nature. Stick and stay. I'm out.